All right, so I wanted to make a video that I would have loved to have seen back when I was 16 and learning how to play guitar. I remember how overwhelming it felt to try and learn everything. You have all these notes, all these frets, and there, I wasn't really sure, do I need to memorize all the notes first and all of that stuff. And so that's what this video is all about, is to help you understand how to navigate the entire fretboard and give you the essential tools. Think of this as like a Swiss Army knife. You don't need all the tools in the tool shed. I mean, they're handy, but what are like the basic things you need to really be able to play and sound pretty good when you're playing all over the neck? So they're like the Cliff Notes version of getting started and really understanding the fretboard. And that's what we're going to be covering here. And so we're going to break this down into notes, chords, and then we're at the very end we're going to touch on some scales. And so we're going to tie it all together into a very simple and easy to understand format. So the first thing we're going to talk about is notes. And I get that question, and like I said, I wondered that, like, do I need to memorize all the notes on the fretboard? Well, the answer is no, you don't want to start there. That's like an insane amount of things to sit down and memorize. And in fact, this guitar has, let's see, we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You have 19 frets on this guitar. There's 6 strings. So how many notes would that be? What's 16 times 9? Hey, Alexa, what's 16 times 9?
16 times 9 is 144.
144. It'd be 144 note combinations all over the neck. Now, there's obviously not 144 notes. There's only 12 notes in music. But you can repurpose notes in the guitar, so you can imagine trying to memorize all of that. Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go with all 6 strings. We're going to start with the bottom 2 strings, the 6th string and the 5th string. The low E, so you got to start by memorizing that. That's an E, and then the A string, which is the 5th string. The cool thing about the guitar is if you learn the E string, the low E string, you've also got the 1st string because it's also an E. So the guitar obviously has the 2 E strings on it. So in actual fact, by learning these 2 strings, you've learned half of the strings on the fretboard anyway. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about, instead of trying to learn every single fret along the way, we're only going to be concerned with the natural notes. So if you're looking at a piano, those would be the white keys. That would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We're not going to necessarily start off at trying to get A sharp, B flat, all of the, the accidentals or whatever they're called, the black keys on the piano. So if we're looking at the low E string, we're going to start here. We're going to start with the open E, and this is the part you are going to have to memorize. You're just going to have to commit this to memory. But just watch the video, bear with me, and it's going to start making sense here. So you have the E, you have the 1st fret is an F, and then we're going to go up to the first or to the 3rd fret, sorry, which is a G. And on most guitars, you start seeing fret markers on the 3, the 5, the 7. Now I know that all guitars are a little different, but on this one it makes it easy. On this guitar, we have the 3rd fret is a G, the 5th fret is an A. So now we've gone E, F, G, and we're starting back at the beginning of the alphabet. So we have A. So you can guess what the notes are going to be from here. We have A, B. After B, you have C. Now on the fretboard, you're only going to go up a half step to get to C. A, B, C. And the reason for that is, think about the piano. This will be a light bulb moment for some of you as you connect the fretboard to a piano. But if you think of a piano, between the B and the C key, there is no black key. So look at what's going on here. We have the B, and then we're going to the C. Versus these notes where we were skipping a fret, though, there was a black key in between. So you can almost start to see the piano keyboard here if you're a piano player. If you're not, just ignore that point. But anyway, you have a C, and then you come up to the D, which would be on the 10th fret. And then once you get to the 12th fret, you've just repeated the octave. So now it's the same as we started with open. So you have E, F, G, A, so forth. So that's the E string. You're really only memorizing those 7 notes. You're not trying to get all 12 of them. You're just trying to get 7. The other ones will take care of themselves. And this is what I mean by that. Now, if you've got that memorized, and I said play an A sharp, now you know where your A is, and sharp means you just go up 1. You go 1 note or a half step above that. If I said play an A flat, you'd find your A and you go down a half step. So that's how your brain starts to see an A flat. It sees the A and then it goes down. That's how I think of it anyway. That's how I learned it. And it makes it a lot easier and a lot less stuff to try and memorize. If I said a B, you find your B. If I said a B flat, You just go down one. So now with that, you've got everything memorized on the E string and actually on the first string as well, the sixth string and the first string. So now let's move on to the A string. I know this part's kind of lame, but trust me, it gets better. So on the fifth string, we're going to start with the open A, and then the next note, it would be a B. So we're not going to go A sharp, we're going to go to the B. And on the guitar, that would be the second fret. So the second fret is the B, the third fret is a C. Remember, between a piano keyboard, between the B and the C, there is no black key. So you're not able to skip a fret. So we're on the C, now we're going to go up to a D, we're going to go up to an E, and remember on a piano between E and F, there's also no black key. There's your F, which would be up here on the 8th fret, 10th fret would be a G, and then we repeat. We're back to A again. So once you've memorized that and you get it really down so that if I said, show me a D, you see a D and you see a D. If I said, show me a C, you see a C and a C. And it happens very quickly. You don't have to think about it. Once you get to that point, and it'll happen quickly, like in 15, 30 minutes or so of just kind of going over this and thinking about it, memorizing it, you'll be able to do that. Then you've got half of the fretboard already memorized. Same rule applies for the fifth string. If I said play C sharp, for example, you know where your C is, you just go up one, right? And so you can apply that same principle now to the fifth string. So now why are we memorizing the sixth string and the fifth string first? Why would we start there? And the reason for that is now we're going to the next level, which is chords. We're going to look at two chord shapes. We're going to look at the E chord shape and the A chord shape out of Caged. What I mean by that is the E chord shape looks like this. That's if I play an E chord down in first position. You know how to do that, right? Well, if I were to play that with these three fingers and I were to slide everything up a fret, and then I have to capo here with my finger to compensate where the nut was. That's all a bar is when you play a bar chord. Now I'm playing an F chord. So you have an E and an F. So when I move up here to and bar on the third fret, I'm playing a G chord. And some of you are going to say, well, how do you know that's a G chord? Well, look at where I'm barring, where my index finger is. It's going down on what note? Remember, we memorized that sixth string. Okay, so that's a G note. So if I were to bar here, you've memorized this now. You know that sixth string, fifth fret, is an A note. So that means by playing this E shape here, with the bar on that fifth fret, I'm playing an A chord. Hopefully that makes sense, that if you memorize the notes on the sixth string and you play an E chord shape like this, that wherever your bar is, that's the chord that you're on. That's why I could just play the chord and then I can look down and see where I'm at and say, oh, okay, so that's a C that I just played, right? So that's how that works. The same kind of principle applies when you use the A chord shape. So if you think of an A chord down in first position, where you've got your open fifth string, if I were to play that here, now notice what I did there. I took that A shape and I just slid it up, so I've got my pinky. I use my pinky when I play that chord, but I'm barring the first four strings on the fifth fret. I've got my index finger down on the third fret, fifth string. Now when I play that chord shape, I only play the middle four strings, 5, 4, 3, and 2. And I call this the A chord shape, and that's another way of playing major chords. And why we memorize the notes on the fifth string is because where my index finger goes, when I'm playing this shape, that's the name of the chord. So in this case, this would be a C. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's a C note. This was a D note, right? So that's my D chord. So now with these two shapes, you can forget the rest of Caged for now. Just get this down. I mean, I've been able to play so much music with just this. Now I can play a G chord and I can play a G chord. And look at how far apart they are. This is why I like these two shapes, because they're spaced far enough that I can get different sounds. I can get a lower sound and a higher sound. If I play a C chord, and I can play a C chord, right? So I've got different ways I can play those chords using that technique. And that's why the fifth and sixth strings, that's why you start by memorizing that. Now let's talk about minor chords. So that's great, those are major chords. The cool thing about minor chords when you've got these basic shapes now is you're just changing a few fingers here. So if I'm playing the E chord shape, if I want to make that a minor chord, I just lift my middle finger. Now that's a G minor. So if this is an A, here's an A minor. Right? And you can check it. That's what an A minor sounds like down in first position, right? Same chord. So all you're doing is lifting your middle finger to get that minor chord. And what's going on there is you're taking that third interval. So if you think of the major scale, 1, 2, 3, and you're flatting the third. That's all a minor chord is. You take the third note in this major scale, 1, 2, 3, and you flat it. And then you get that minor sound. So that's how you do it with the E shape. If we're playing the A shape, so this is a D chord, right? Because I've got my index finger on the 5th fret, 5th string. To play that as a minor, I just go in, I bar there, and then I go ahead and play the A minor chord shape. So remember, this is like the A shape, the A major chord shape. That's the A minor chord shape. Think of your A minor shape in first position. If you were to play that shape and bar on the 5th fret, you'd be playing a D minor chord. So now you can see in practices, you got a C chord, and then you've got a C minor chord. Then find it here using the E shape. C chord, C minor chord. With that information, you can play your major chords and your minor chords, which is going to cover 85–90% of most music that's out there, whether it's country or rock or pop or blues. It all kind of bases around, you know, your major and minor chords. I realize there's diminished chords, there's augmented chords, there's a whole slew of other ways we could look at chords. We can get into jazz chords and stuff. But most of the stuff that you want to play is going to be a combination of major and minor chords. The last thing I'll mention along the lines of chords is it's also important to know your dominant 7 chords. And so your dominant 7 chords are just so common in rock and blues especially. And so the way I think of that, if I'm playing an A chord here, using the E chord shape, to play that dominant 7, I just lift my pinky now. And you can hear that bluesier sound to the chord because of that 7. Now if you wanted to get fancy, you could add your pinky up here, and that would be the 8th fret, 2nd string for an A chord. So that's another voicing of it. But that's a 7 chord using the E shape. And out of the A shape, I'm going to give you 2. One is you can go like this, where I bar here. So this would be a D chord, a D major. If I want to play a D7, I just keep the bar there on the 5th fret. And then I've got my pinky on the 2nd string and my ring fingers on the 4th string. And it's that same space on the fretboard between those two where I skip a fret. So you've got D, D7. The other 7 shape that you can play off of this A is to take where your bar is, so where my pinky is, and replace it with your index finger, and then go up 1 fret on the 1st string and play the top 4 strings. That's another version of that. So if that's a D, that's a D7. With that, you've got your major chords, your minor chords, and your dominant 7 chords. Now, what I would encourage you to do is to take a simple chord progression. You can take any of them that you want, a Beatles song, Eagles, whatever your thing is, or just write a song. Take a progression like G, E minor, C, and D. You know, a real simple chord progression like you've heard. Instead of playing it down here, quiz yourself and play it higher up on the neck. So play something like a G, E minor, C, D, and just switch it up. And it's just a really great mental exercise to be able to recall those chords quickly. And then in addition to that, you could throw in the dominant 7 chords. Now those only work over the major chords. Hear how different it sounds? Sounds a little more bluesy. So practice that and, you know, quiz yourself. The last thing I want to say is I just want to touch on scales and just tie this all together. This is just going to be one little example of how it all kind of ties together. But if we think of the minor pentatonic scale, the old family favorite scale that I always talk about anyway, and we think about those 2 chord shapes we learned, the E shape and the A shape. If we look at the E shape, we'll take a G chord, for example, using the E shape. I've got my minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, connected to that shape. Look at where my bar is when I play that. It'll be the 3rd fret. And look at that. Every note I played touches on that bar. So hopefully you can connect the minor pentatonic scale to that chord shape, and allows you now to throw in little bluesy licks if you want. So if I can connect that G minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 to the E shape, what could I connect to the A shape? We're also playing a G chord up here. I've got pattern 4 up there connected to this shape. And you can see how they kind of overlap there, but most of those notes are shared on the 10th fret, with the exception of the second string. That one's offset a little. So now I can play a G chord up here and go into some bluesy stuff there. Now, I could also talk about the major pentatonic scale. We could get into arpeggios. We could get into all kinds of stuff, modes. And I mean, there's so many avenues you can go down to get lost. But what I just gave you is the essential, I think, to playing and just sort of navigating your way around the fretboard. That's as far as a lot of people make it, by the way. So if you've gone beyond that, you should be very proud of yourself. In fact, that's even farther than I think probably most people, your casual players, make it. They probably don't make it that far. But if you can do that, I'm telling you, you've got all the basics, and you're able to go out there and jam with other people. And then when you see a chord chart or something, you're not just playing down here. You can complement the other players and play, in some different voicings and get some different sounds. So mess around with that. Hopefully that gives you some things to think about and shine some lights on some things that might have been confusing in the past. Let me know what you think about that. Leave a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts on it.